Well, good morning everyone, and I thought I would cover this separately. This is the latest super frog to serve with the Madagascan WHATIF totally made up fictional armed forces. This is of the Tentacruel Squadron, and this is E for Edwina. Now, I'm going to be doing a series of builds through each of the periods from Vietnam up to the modern period of the frog, the CH-46. CH-46 in Malagasy service served with the Navy, and it served with the Army. The Marines used the Wessex primarily. These are coming back now into service, and there's a few reasons why they're coming back. So currently the medium helicopter fleet is pretty much the Super Puma and the UH-1Y Venom, which is new, which is replacing the AB-412, which can't really lift itself in a hot and high climate. The CH-46 obviously is a very old airframe, and this is the Hobbyboss kit, which isn't bad, but you can only do a CH-46 up to the 1980s from the kit. You can't really do a modern 1990s or 2000s CH-46 from the kit. And the reason being is that whilst the Hobbyboss kit does come with the armour panels here, and the armour panels on the other side, it doesn't come with the extended dust filters here. It doesn't come with any of the countermeasures fit. It doesn't come with the DI RCM fit, so I've made my own customly. And there's a few other subtle details, such as the enlarged sponsons for the bullfrog, the flotation bags on the side, which you just cannot get in 1 in 72nd. So I've had to modify this. So I cut out the door on the sides. I use a 50 cal from Butler's Printed Models, make my own bracket for it, add the countermeasures myself. I add SATCOM antennas, I add radio antennas, all of that kind of stuff. And I've done this one with the rear ramp open, and we'll come on to the rear ramp a bit later. I then add some crew here, metal crew from Elheim Miniatures, add countermeasures, lumps and bumps all over it. Those are your detectors for missiles. And on this side, I cut out the window position here, the escape window, and then add another 50 cal, which keeps the main door free. Now, in Madagascan use, what's happened is really there's a cascading downwards of bigger helicopter types. So whereas these are really medium helicopters, they are now classing in the light category, and there's a reason for that. So working down from the top, from the MH-53E family, we then go to the Chinook. So MH-53E, 16,000 kilogram payload underslung. Chinook, 12,000 kilogram payload underslung. CH-53 is next in line, 9,000 kilogram payload underslung. XC-142, it would be in practice about 9,000 kilograms, so that's in that bracket, and that's a very specialized assault tilt rotor, very fast. And then you come down to these helicopters here. So you've got things like the Super Puma, which has a nominal payload of 5,000 kilograms underslung, and then you've got 3,000 kilograms, I believe it is, for the Frog. So the Frog is a lighter payload, 2,000 kilogram underslung, I think, for the UH-1Y. But the Frog has some good advantages, and the Frogs have been in rest, they've been in refurbishment. The Super Puma, not a bad helicopter at all. Sorry, it's 4,500 max underslung for the Super Puma. But the Super Puma, if you have the door guns here, which I've got the 2 door gunners on either side of this modified Super Puma, this is the latest Malagasy standard, you have to stop firing when you deploy troops. The Malagasys don't like deploying into hot LZs, but that is a restriction on the helicopter. The Frog has a rear ramp, and that opens up the cargo bay for easy loading of casualties, easy loading of troops. Troops can very easily dismount. Now, I can't get any decent crew figures for inside the helicopters. No one makes any decent crew figures to go inside, which is a really annoying factor, because I've got the 2 pilots, but of course you'd have 2 door gunners, one of whom would be the crew chief. Minimum crew they'd fly with would be 3. On this Puma they're flying with 4, same with the Venom. And that the idea of this rear ramp is it's really good for the ease of unloading, and if there is a problem at the LZ or as the helicopter's flying, you've got 2 door gun positions there. You can have a third ramp gun position there, so you've got the ability to spice up your helicopter a bit. It just makes loading and unloading easier. Now, as Bad Lieutenant has pointed out, these helicopters did have a few accident problems, lots of leaks of hydraulics, etc. Numerous videos of them catching fire on YouTube, which is pretty scary, or ditching in the sea. The rear ramp, though, is essential to Malagasy doctrine now. So, like I said, they're cascading, and these will be essentially a bracket below the XC142. They're going to serve in smaller numbers as well as the 142s take over. So let's look at the rebuild process here. And with the Super Puma, so the Super Puma became operational in 1995. It's been upgraded, it's still active, but it will be heading into reserve use and possible retirement by 2028. The CH-46, the Frog's been in service since 1965. It's served through Vietnam and pretty much every conflict that Malagasy's got involved in since. And in 2015, they were all withdrawn for refurbishment. The plan is to re-enter them into service this year. The AB412, 1986 operational, and that's been replaced by a completely new type, the UH-1Y. The Frog, however, is not being replaced, it's being fully rebuilt, and that's what the Malagasys do and WHATIF land to save dollar. Budget lady is always on the case. So what happens when they are retired is they come in for a full strip of the airframe and a rebuild, and that includes examining every aspect of the airframe for cracks, for fatigue, looking at corrosion issues, and that's why they're out of service for this 10-year period. Is every airframe that they're going to bring back, and they retired 60 and they're bringing back 24, is fully inspected and reworked to the latest standards. That's done by local firms in WHATIF Madagascar and USA firms. So the aim is to put 24 back into service. So we start with the engines. So the engines on these currently are the GE T58 16 model of 1070 shaft horsepower. They want to get more than that, so they upgrade the engines to a WHATIF T58 24, which has, say, 2,100 horsepower per engine. So they come back with a latest upgrade, that is a WHATIF, but they come back with more power than they left. The wiring is redone completely, taking the wiring systems out, putting digital wiring in, FADEC, which is digital engine control. They look at the crash systems, the fire systems, the armour, the seats, redo all of that to the latest standard, redo the avionics, glass cockpits, add the forward-looking infrared, which is from a Vikondo Chinese anti-tank system, just underneath there, but they've got forward-looking infrared. Got the upgraded countermeasures all over them. I had lots of countermeasures to my helicopters just using plasticard. So they had a SATCOM antenna as well, which is on the top there, and then they go for testing, and that's where the Super Frogs are now. They're in operational test phase. The Tentacruels have got the first squadron, and as I've said recently, the squadron, so you start with Army, then you go to your squadron, then you go to your letter for each aircraft. So G, F here, and E for Edwina. The airframes can change. 24 will be brought back into service of the Super Frogs, but they are a full rebuild, a bit like what Basler does to the BT-67. The idea is that you're returning a fully modernised product into service. Now, with the helicopters as well, what's happened for the operational environment is these can carry like 16, and the Puma can certainly carry 12. The UH-1Y carries a bit less, I think 8 or 9, depending on how many crew you've got in it. But actually, when you're operating in operation environments, these would be carrying a full squad of 9 max, 9 max for the Super Puma, and probably less for the Venom, because it tends to be used more in an ultralight role. But the idea is that you're not carrying as many people, so actually, one, the exposure of a helicopter being lost is diminished, and 2, that allows the helicopter to cope better with the payloads, and of course it's carrying armour, crash resistant seats, etc., and all its countermeasures. So it remains a sprightly performer, although it does lose some payload. But that's made up for in the fact that the Malagasys operate a lot of helicopters, so they fully support the airborne brigade and the amphibious brigade with the ability to lift 1 battalion at a time, which is pretty good. And that's the doctrine of using them. I hope you like the build. Sorry I've rambled on a bit. Take care. Goodbye.